The subject today, recruiting assassins. And we have three of the best recruiting sharpshooters on this planet. We'll start with ladies first. Sue Rainwater, over 40,000 followers on LinkedIn. I've got to talk to her about how she has been able to do this. Paul Hindman, LinkedIn provocateur, who, and I'm one to speak, right? Who is not afraid to give his opinion and to push back. And he's been blocked by more people than anyone in the history of the mortgage business as a result. And then you've got Noah Zimmerman, who, like Sue, worked in the IMB space before as the person in charge with adding talent. And now all three of you are on your own. And I was just shocked by how many people wanted to hear this conversation. We have to dive right in. It's just completely fascinating to me. It was just an idea I thought of. First of all, thank you so much for accepting the invite. It's so great to have you three on here. I've personally worked with the three of you and really enjoy my time with the three of you. Sue, keeping that ladies first theme going. What's it like out there these days in recruiting land?
Oh, in the recruiting world, it's just like buying a home or doing a loan in 1984 when the interest rates were 16% and everyone was refinancing because, oh, such a great rate. People that want to hire and expand and grow their talent base, and people that want to change positions because for whatever reason, time to move on, enhance their career, the love isn't there. We're busy. I can speak for myself, Noah and Paul. We're all busy. I think for me, the biggest challenge is ghosting.
Oh
And
my goodness, that's so funny because I've got on here my hand to the man.
huge.
I
It's
have on here a bullet point that says getting ghosted. I mean, what a great way to start this conversation.
Let me tell you,
You're all smiling because you've got talk about getting ghosted.
oh my gosh. It breaks my heart when I'm on LinkedIn and I see folks saying, "Oh my God, I applied 10 times, I had 40 interviews, and then I got ghosted." And I want to say, me too, girl. I mean, with the clients we work with, the candidates we work with, everything's going along wonderful. We're progressing. The offer letter's coming. Stay tuned. It's going to happen. And then they go dark, and you think, "What did I say? Something? Did something come up?" And I mean, they've gone. I've had clients, leaders, presidents go dark for weeks, and I think, do they die on a hill? I mean, so it affects us too. It affects us more than you could ever imagine.
Well, I would imagine it affects you even more now that we're in this free agency frenzy that started around 2019 when a couple of IMBs decided to really put the pedal to the metal
Yeah.
and started paying 30 basis points for loan officers, 70, 100, 150. Hey, you can have 200 if you'll sign a 10-year contract and give me your liver.
Right.
I haven't seen 200.
You have?
I have not.
How high have you seen, and how much has the signing bonus game changed what you do?
So 100 is the peak, and it has been the peak for a while. And anybody going over that is, I don't think it's 5 years to earn it back. The average folk, it's 3 years they're staying, right? So not really worth it. But 100 is the peak for what I see.
And how much has that changed? Like if you look at the landscape, Noah, over the years, because you worked at, I think, Supreme Lending for over a handful of years. That was before these massive checks. Like now you talk to a recruit and it's not so much about, can you get my loans closed? It's how big's my wallet about to get?
Exactly. Well, and the assumption is if you've made it to this point as an IMB or as a bank, then you're probably getting the loans closed on time. That's not a matter. But I think there's so much of a psychological game to it as well, because some people that are out there just looking for some kind of a lifeline, like although they might know deep in their heart that that money's going to be clawed back somehow, you have to deal with the psychological impact of somebody, stroking a big check like that, because it's just, you can't ignore it. And sometimes it's just completely illogical, to make somebody jump like that, because it's just, there's something deep down in you that's like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. I kind of have to take it.
I mean, how does the math even work, guys? Like, it doesn't, right? If you're willing to give somebody $300,000 that does 40 million in mortgage production a
Doesn't-
year, like that's not.
Okay. Okay.
No one's trying to go broke in this business.
No, I think so. I'll wear my finance hat for just a second. I think the math can work. I think the economics are what they are, and everybody is acutely aware of what it takes to be successful on the economics. And they're not making commitments like that because they're not getting a return, right? Anybody paying 100 basis points for anyone that they really want to recruit, I think that they expect to get that return. And if something changes and it is a fail on both sides, the breakage is pretty dramatic. It's out there and people talk about it, but I think it starts out as a winning formula. Now, granted, nobody. I'm not talking about everybody paying 100 bips, but I like to see those numbers for an onboarding. Comfortable at 3 months, something like that. Maybe 35 to 50 basis points on the high end. But if you want a top performer and they're doing over 100 million in production, yeah, there are plenty of people paying up for it.
I think you have to set the expectation with your candidate that those days of $1 million checks, unless you have an incredible candidate with a huge team behind him, those days of $1 million checks are few and far between. And set the expectation. And I always say, don't spend the money. Don't spend the money till you're over there for a year, and make sure you love it.
So I know there's like major FOMO going on for me, or there was anyway, because there was a time, Noah and Paul in particular, where both of you indicated, and especially Noah, I'm going to focus on you, my man, where you said, hey, I appreciate that you want to use my services, but get in line. I'm booked solid. I can't take on another client. You literally told me that, and you held true to that. And Paul, I think you told me the same thing. I think there's an assumption that if you're a recruiter, you're repping everyone, but you've got your own vetting process, right, Noah?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it has to be taken seriously, because just like a good loan, a loan officer that does a good loan for a family can help improve that family and make a positive impact long term. If you're working with an ethical recruiter, they should be helping your family long term. And it really, where it drove the point home with me. Now, I've been in recruiting for 20 years. I'd spent 12 years doing healthcare recruiting, but back in this, actually almost a year ago now, I was sitting in Long Island with a friend of mine who had become friends over 5 years, sitting at his dinner table. And we're sitting here eating pizza, drinking some beer, and he's about to jump off this plank and go with my client. And I just it just really impacted me deeply, because I got to thinking, him and his wife and his kids have all sat around this table having dinner, talking about the conversation, the seeds that I planted in his mind over this time. And you have to, if you're doing it to make a buck, you're going to mess with somebody's life. And if anybody's ever switched jobs before, it sucks. You got to go you're changing health insurance, you're changing this, you have to rearrange your finances. Maybe you get something to come on board and that smooths it out a bit, but generally speaking, it sucks to change jobs. So if you're going to do that, it really needs to be with that person's best interest. And the fact is, like, I think NFM is great. I think all my clients are great, but I've got a call coming up here in a couple of hours where it's like, hey, thank you, but no thanks. I can't squeeze it in. And like, there's only so much that I can transfer as far as my trust and belief in companies.
That's great. No, I'll tell you how I met Greg in person. So about just over a year ago, I was about to have an interview with Inside Mortgage Finance, Paul Molo, and so I said, Greg, I'm going to be in Bethesda. So how about we get together? And Greg comes in with camera in motion, and we sat there. Greg, I think it's like a couple of hours, right? You were trying to beat the traffic when you finally left. But the one thing that really stood out during that whole thing was Greg took a call from his son, and I thought, you know what, that's a really good dad move. And he was on the phone with his son. They were bidding on some game card, I think, if I remember correctly. And I thought, way cool, right? How deep is this when a father takes a moment for his kid in the middle of our discussion? Because it was a pretty serious discussion for a couple of hours. But that's one of the reasons why I support NFM today.
Yeah, well, now I know whenever I'm in the middle of trying to impress someone, I'm just going to have my kids call. I had no idea.
Moms have been doing it for years.
Paul, here's what I was thinking about you, because it was like 40 degrees and cloudy. Why is this guy wearing sunglasses inside? That's what I was thinking. Paul, you're like, you got a lot of opinions, man. You're on social media. You're out there swinging pretty hard sometimes. I know you're not trying to aggravate anybody, but you're kind of out there, like kind of in that space that I'm in, where we live close to the fire, man. What's it like for you? And why do you put yourself out there like that? You don't need any crap.
I was an early adopter of LinkedIn. I was with Management Advisors. It was really the introduction of LinkedIn, and Bill Castell said, and Eric Levin, right? Those guys were together. They said, don't waste your time. And I was, like, this is too cool. I had a newsletter at the time, and so, but I forgot that I needed to, my newsletter went out to like 3,000 people, and I thought that was like pretty cool. Dave Stevens was one of them. I just want to take a minute. So Mary Clark Stevens, you interviewed her, at some point this year. She's on LinkedIn now. She has very few connections, but I think everybody should take a minute and connect with her because clearly she does a couple of great things. She's very involved in Opens Doors, the Foundation for MBA. And of course, she also supports the prostate, cancer research there at Hopkins. And I think that, it's a season of giving. So if you're thinking of charities, those are two pretty good charities. But just getting back to the question, though, I think that I missed out on, connections, but I get a lot of impressions and comments, and I think the connection is all of that, right? It's a conversation. And I love that part about LinkedIn.
Sue, how do you have 41,000 followers? What's going on over there? You have like some kind of inside track.
Could connect. It started for me during COVID, and I kind of manned up and bought the recruiter version of LinkedIn for, I don't know, 10 grand a year, whatever it is, 12 grand a year. And I thought, I'm going to make really good use of this. Also, I was working with Ginger Bell for a minute and had reached out to her and said, how can I let everybody know who I am? Because a lot of people in California know me. A handful of companies that I had been doing business with were great, but they were bringing their own internal recruiters in. And she said, LinkedIn, get on it, post, just like Dan says, just like you do, and Brian, Vu, and anyone on LinkedIn in our space is on LinkedIn every day. So I started posting something every day, and then I would set aside time to reach out to people I wanted to be friends with. And it started as that. This is friends, work associates, people I wanted to know about and were genuinely interested in. And it just grew, every day without a fail. I would get on LinkedIn, like going to the gym, brushing your teeth. And then all of a sudden, Brian conducted a survey, and he's like, who's Sue Rainwater? And why is she the number 3 on this list of mortgage people?
Yeah. Well,
And so,
you're blowing it up for sure. So I'm going to come back around with another question. I want you all three to answer this in whatever order you want. What are the secrets to recruiting? Like, give us, like, if you have a secret sauce, or is it all just mechanics and consistency? Like, what would you say makes a great recruiter?
If you don't mind, I'll hop in on that one, and it actually kind of dovetails with what Sue was talking about earlier in regards to ghosting. So I'll pull these things together. Um, people people don't want to have to swallow their pride to get back in touch with you. If you've ever like looked at somebody's text message and got distracted and forgot to text them back, if you can't go into things thinking that if they don't reply to me, they're a jerk. And so I'll just give a little hint. This is something that I use. If somebody ghosts or hasn't responded in a while, a simple text saying, "Hey, it's been a little bit since we last connected. Just wanted to ask you, are you just no longer interested, or have you been busy? Thanks either way." Give people an easy out, because what happens is they don't want to get embarrassed by getting on the phone and going, "Yes, I'm sorry, let me commit harikari in front of you just to get back in your good graces." So I feel like that's opening the conversation back up, because all of us can say there's been recruits that have taken years to get to. It took a long time to build that relationship. And like, what does it take to be successful? I think, and Paul and I were talking about this earlier, you got to be ready to go get kicked in the shins. It really is. It's a matter of talking to enough people to find the ones that are willing to move, and then developing the relationships with ones that will eventually move. So that's where I find that regionals and branch managers sometimes struggle with recruiting, are the ones that say, "Oh my gosh, I could never do what you do." And it's like, look, man, it's not rocket science. I sold Kirby vacuum cleaners out of college. I can promise you I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'm too dumb to quit. And when I find somebody that I like, I learn about them and I stay in touch. And there's another tip for everybody, not you guys, but for anybody watching. Find out the small details and bring them up. And then also, if you've ever looked into like the mechanics of a good comedian, using a callback, something you mentioned at the beginning, bring it back at the end. It helps tie all these things together. So it's not rocket science. It's patience and really kind of just determination to continue the relationship.
I have a
Paul?
trick.
Yeah, go ahead, Sue. What's your trick?
My trick is, it's so silly. It's so elementary. When I'm sourcing candidates, when I'm making a cold call, which I don't like to do, I like an introduction. But if I'm making a cold call, I will say this: Sue Rainwater, I'm a mortgage recruiter. Don't hang up. It's so dumb. And I've had 9 out of 10 candidates say, "You know what? I'm calling you back because that's original." And it made me laugh and it put a smile on my face. So what do you got? You got 5 minutes. And I've moved teams from that one lead in.
So interject humor and stay consistent. What about you, Paul?
A little bit of humor. And like Noah said, don't ghost your clients. If you got bad news, deliver the bad news quick and offer hopefully an alternative solution.
Yeah, everything is situational for me. I don't. So when I gave up finance, I was handed a binder, a 3-ring binder, and it was 3 inches thick, and that was the recruiting playbook. And they told me, read this and you'll know how to recruit. And that was because I called a recruiter to get a job, and they ended up offering me a job. So since then, I don't know that the playbook works anymore, but it's all situational for me. And my phone just rings with referrals. I don't really do a whole lot of, unless a client wants me to, focus on a particular region or that kind of thing. I don't do a whole lot of cold calling, but when I do, I don't make it about myself. I make it about the person I'm calling. And I've done a whole lot of research in advance, and I already know them, and I know their stats. A lot of data isn't anything without a relationship, but you got to know the data, right? You got to know you're calling them, and you know their history and their success. but they don't want you to regurgitate that because
Yeah.
they're familiar with their volume.
Yeah, let me ask you a question, because is there less juice out there to go after now? Because the loan officer count has gone from, it's been cut in half or whatever. So are there just less low producers, or is there less, is the pie, has been the pie been diminished, therefore translates to less opportunities?
There's
No,
less producers, but the opportunity I feel is greater. You have to sift through less,
Yeah.
because it's just more likely that you're going to find somebody that does the type of volume that you want. So no, I think it's a good thing that it's been thinned out.
yeah. So Noah said earlier when we were talking that he makes a lot of outbound calls, cold calls. Like I don't know, you said 30 or 40 a day, right? Now, something like that.
Right.
And no slam, but those are inbound calls for me. I must get, I get a lot of inbound calls, and obviously you can't help everyone. I'll give you guys an example. I got a call recently, and obviously I'm not going to name names, and the person just flat out said, "I want to make more money," and I said, "So what's your comp plan today?" And they said, "Well, I have a $200,000 base, and I get 5 basis points for all production." And I said, "Well, geez, that's a pretty aggressive comp plan. Why do you need more money?" "Well, I don't have a lot of production." I said, "Well, get to work." Right? That's on you. That's a great comp plan, And so at the end of the day, I know that sounds a little offensive, but honestly, there's some great comp plans out there. You got to do something actionable. And I don't think that we've run out of steam. Recruiting hasn't run out of anything. I'm busy. You guys are busy. We're it's musical chairs a little bit, but I think at the end of the day, do the right thing for the right reason, for the right people, and you get results.
Yeah, we have some good questions coming in, and please fire them in. We'll keep this conversation going for at least another 20 minutes. Christopher Saunders, president and executive recruiter, wants to know how many of these people who take these big checks regret it. You have any stories? This trio here of people that take these big checks, and
I can't say
I
if
do.
it's a percentage, but I can tell
Yeah.
you there's certain companies out there that people regret taking them from. There are companies out there that will stroke a big check to bring you, and they'll stroke a big check to keep you. And as long as you're willing to play in that kind of free agent market inside of that company, understand the system for what it is, that you will be a cog in a very large machine, and you're okay with it, then I think it can be great. But there's a lot of companies out there that will dangle that check. And even if you're, 2 years out, will make your life a living hell,
Yeah.
to try to get out from under it. So I don't know a percentage, but I think it's more company by company. I think really the reputation matters, and my advice to any originator or manager would be you really need to talk to branches or originators that have been onboarded at that company that could have possibly taken a check, and find out what that was like, and talk to people that departed and see how that divorce went as well.
Same here. I have had branch leaders reach out and say, my time's up in 8 months. Let's get started, because I'm out of here the minute the clock stops ticking. So, it's the bigger companies, and certainly not to name names, because everybody's good and bad at the same time. But
what does that mean? Good and bad at the same time?
good and bad.
Well,
Well,
come on, don't stop
the
there.
The experience of if you're the experience
Sue,
of working for a big company can go.
You and I have had some amazing conversations, and I have to say, and this is not, I'm giving it away here, right? For the longest time, NFM, the company that I work for, we had this. I don't know where it came from, but for the longest time, we thought we don't ever need to hire third-party people. We'll handle it ourselves.
Yep.
But you know what? We kind of suck. We suck at it. We sucked at it, and we suck at it. The minute that we opened up our eyes and the possibility of bringing on folks like you, our pipeline went into the billions almost overnight. In fact, our pipeline is in the billions right now. We just got done boarding a $500 million group. that Mr. Hindman helped us to land. And I've had, several $500 million and or larger conversations with Sue and Noah, and a pretty big one on deck that's going to happen this week with one of the three of you.
Mhm.
So it's like, hey, people, wake up. Like, it took us far too long to come to the realization
Yep.
that this is the honey hole. I don't know who,
Well, I think that the part of that, and I'm glad, I appreciate you saying that. There's only so many contacts that even a social media darling like you, Greg, there's only so many people that you're going to reach out to, because the value I feel that us as recruiters bring are the trust that we've built with those individual candidates and groups, and it can't necessarily just be duplicated because another person is with ABC company. And so that's where I feel the value is because there's a point in somebody's career where I don't think where they've been more vulnerable than when they start talking to a recruiter or start talking about leaving, because you can sign NDAs, you can do all that, but all it takes is one person to leak that information out and their whole world just goes into a tailspin.
Oh.
And so I think opening that up is really built on trust, because that's what recruiting is the transference of trust and respect and likability.
Correct.
That's great, Noah. I want to get back to the original question for just a second, though. Was the money worth it? And talk about the breakage. So I measure those kinds of things in my own recruiting turnover, right? The people that I place, how many times are those people getting there, and whether they come back to me and say, get me out of here or not, that doesn't really happen. And I look at them and in terms of turnover. And really, so I'm going to talk about NFM for a second. I think you guys have several divisionals that have been with your company a really long time, right? And that speaks volumes. I have other clients that have that kind of tenure, and when you talk about that in terms of companies that have been in business for 30 years, right? There are companies out there, small companies that have been in business a really long time, and they have that kind of tenure, and they have very little turnover. Those are the clients that I like to pursue. Now, it's not that I don't have newbies. I do have newbies, companies that are very innovative and doing very unique things. But at the end of the day, it's all, again, back to the situational component, right? Because we're going to have to change. We're all changing all the time. And we got to step up for that change. And I love new companies because they have new ideas. So it's, again, very situational for me.
So you've dealt with all the bigs. I know you have.
Mhm.
I mean, name an owner in the last 30 years. You've
Yep.
probably dealt with them. I mean, you've been in the industry. Is it 40 years now?
Well, we don't say that. I'd have to say I started when I was 10. So
But
it's
no, I
been
mean,
a long damn time. But the first 30 plus years was as an originator, as a branch leader, as a regional leader for Guild, Norwest, CMG. I worked for Rob Hurd at RPM and Susan McCann at Opus. That was my last position. And we were biz dev. We created JVs, MSAs. And then I stepped out and started my own company in 2014. And I have never looked back. And
any idea how much volume you've placed? Do you know that
well,
number?
Since I opened,
Yeah. You have any
Yeah.
idea?
yeah, probably because I had some M&As in there. Probably around, it's probably going to sound low, but I don't know, probably around 10 billion production
That doesn't sound low to me.
with different companies. Yeah, I had 3 M&As during 22 to 24, and had some big producers, built a whole region out, or helped for a New American in 2015. So yeah, I've worked with some fun people, and
Yeah. Let's talk about assholes. Can we? That's a fun conversation. And you have to eliminate me from the asshole conversation.
you're the best.
No, I have, I'm on the sideline here. You can't talk about me, but there've been some, there's some owners that you guys, I'm sure, refuse to deal with. You just have been down that road too many damn times. And, Tell us a few stories. Obviously, I don't expect you to mention any names.
They
Um,
recognize themselves.
yeah, but I mean, at this point, what's it matter anyway? They know who they are and they know how you feel about them. So, I mean, I'm not going to ask you to name any names, but Paul,
Third party.
talk about an
Okay.
asshole you've dealt
Okay.
with.
Yeah. Okay. So third party recruiters are scum. You're right. And
Yeah.
And clearly there are
Talk about spicy takes here.
Yeah. So there are company leaders out there that think that, right? But I'll really say that at the end of the day, when you're a third party, there's only one winner. You got to do it in such a way that it's a balance where if you present it to all of your clients and only one won, you've got to go back to the clients that didn't win and explain why. Just like you have to do that same thing to a recruit. There's only, they're only going to get hired by one company, right? So, or not, right? Or they don't get hired. So I think that rather than dropping the ball and ghosting, so there's a ghosting thing that we should talk about, because on the other side of that, we ghost too, right? When something falls apart, we might.
You don't want to deliver bad news, yeah. Paul, I'm not going to let you avoid the question, buddy. Have you dealt with an asshole owner?
Several.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some?
I dealt with an asshole. They don't pay you. They don't want to pay you, right? They all of a sudden there's my invoice, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm not." They throw it in the trash, and then you have to chase after them. Am I right, guys? You chase after these people for months trying to get a check. It's
mind-boggling, huh? You do all the work, you nurture the relationship, you convince them to go there.
Yep.
So I reserve the right to call them out. I won't call them out on this podcast, but I reserve the right to talk shit about them, and I do.
And we do between us.
Well,
so their names are out there. I call Noah all the time, right?
I mean, it's amazing to me that the three of you are competitors. I mean, you are. I mean, seriously, come on, no, seriously. Only one of you is getting paid on whatever group you're talking to, and there's crossover. Like, why even the willingness to even do this? Why are you why are the three of you friends, Noah? Explain that to me.
I mean, while there is crossover, there's also crossover between a loan officer in San Francisco and another one in Modesto. But is there a lot? I don't know. I mean, maybe a little bit, but I would guarantee you. I mean, if you laid our pipelines across each other, you might find maybe 10%. Of competition in there, but I don't personally see it as competition. I think it makes me better. It makes everyone better. It makes me want to step up my game. And then also truly it's challenging. I'll give you an example. This is one where I put my foot in my own mouth. So I refuse to dabble and spread rumors. But I talked to a loan officer who left a company. I was talking to him. He's like, man, they're getting rid of this product, and so I have to find a new place. But they're getting out a mortgage. Well, what did I do? Normally, I take that and I go ask very pointed questions of people I know. But I was like, well, there's 10 branches. I'll just call. And so I'm sending out video messages like, hey, man, I'm so sorry that y'all are getting out a mortgage. If I were in your shoes, that would suck, and I'm sorry. And I went and did that to 10 different people. And the leader of the company calls me and she's like, hey, I appreciate you sending that video. It really kind of softened it a little bit, but that's not true whatsoever. And I'm just insert foot into mouth. And so again, the competition reminds me that I have to be better, and I would hope it reminds everybody they have to be better. So just operate at a higher level,
that was an asshole move, Noah. But guess who else?
100%.
Guess who else has done that? I remember succinctly sending somebody a video, and they felt like, why are you talking shit about my company? This was years ago, but you remember those moments because it's really eye opening. You're like, what was I thinking?
Yep.
And there are a lot of dirty, filthy scumbag recruiters out there. I mean, NFM has been rumored to be going out of business.
Oh, forever.
I mean, forever. You've heard it, right? What have you heard about us? Sue, have you heard about NFM going
Oh, well, because whenever I say to someone, oh my gosh, candidates will say, well, who or clients, well, who are you doing business with? And I'll, rattle off a few names. And inevitably, whoever I'm speaking with will say, well, I heard they're not any good, or I heard they just lost two big teams, or I heard that. And I'm like, yeah, that happens everywhere. And, I can only speak to who I know, who I respect. If I heard that NFM was going out of business, I'd text you. I could text Greg Shear at midnight West Coast time, anytime, and I'm going to get a response within 5 hours. And you've had people on your show, and I've called you after, and I said he thinks I'm an asshole, and Greg, so it goes both ways. But
That is true. No, you have said that for sure.
Yeah.
Paul, what do you say about all this?
I think that desperation did it. Right? Desperation turns really good people into something that they don't want to be. I recently talked to a company owner that said, Paul, my gosh, my company just got raided because I lost a couple of branches and I couldn't compete with what they were offered. And I told them to hit the road, get the frig out. And I said, oh my God, why did you do that? These people had worked for you. They made you a lot of money. Why did you, that was an asshole move, right? Why did you send them on their way and do it that way? Well, I was pissed off, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, they're talking bad about you. They're raiding your company. That's on you. That's not on them. That's on you. So I think that when people are losing folks, they should figure out why they're losing folks, and they should do. I mean, look, I don't want to call it a post-mortem, but they should definitely figure out if it's on them, if they're the reason, because you can't get better if you can't face what you did wrong.
Well, you learn more from the ones that you lose versus the ones that you win. Like, and it's a sports thing. But it's so true in life. And I think as well, like, your desperation can drive things for sure. But I think let's be honest. Mortgage is an interesting business, and that somebody with a GED and a good sales ability can make brain surgeon money. And I think if you follow that all the way through, some of these owners took great risks personally, and I don't diminish that at all. I would never take that kind of a risk. I'm not comfortable with that. But some of these guys really put it all on the line and won, and good on them. That's great. But I think you also have to be really careful about believing what everybody says about you, because you're going to fall into a trap, and you're going to start to believe that you're God on earth. And there's a great degree of narcissism and psychopathy for some that happens in this business. And you really have to be aware of that, because there's too many of them that would, set your house on fire just so that they felt right or felt better about something, or they got crossed some way, or feel that they got crossed, when it's just business. So I think, and it's hard to tell, because a lot of these folks are very charming, or they wouldn't be where they're at. They were able to do that, but it's kind of a tightrope. And I think it's really should definitely be, if I'm a candidate, I should be out there talking to their branches and figuring out, like, why do you stick around, and go with your gut, because your intuition is going to tell you stuff about it. Because people can put on a facade for a while, but eventually that facade falls off, and you see who the real person is.
I should mention that all three of you represent individual producers as well. So while we're talking at a very high level globally, if someone's doing decent amount of production out there, like, I don't even know what the bottom is for you guys. It's probably different for the three of you. But my point is that it's not just big acquisitions and mergers and 10 billion. However, so I want to throw in that disclaimer if we have an LO, that's interested in looking around. And the interesting thing is you get three different personalities, right? Like, we all like to work with different people. I love this forum because you're all three so incredibly dynamic in your own individual way. We've seen a good deal of mergers and acquisitions in our space, more than we've ever seen, probably in a very condensed period of time. Some have been great, and several have just failed catastrophically. And I'd love to know your opinions on what is the difference between the ones that succeed and the ones that fail. What is the common denominator? Paul, you can kick this off. I see you smirking.
Okay, so my first acquisition was when Signet Mortgage sold their branch network to AccuBank, which became Nat City, which became PNC, and that was in the 90s. And so um, I loved putting that deal to bed because I was the final asset negotiator. I flew to Dallas, and so it was a fellow by the name of Keith Klein. He was Prime Lending CFO at the end of his career. He's retired now, but anyway, Keith and I had a lot of fun. How many acquisitions since then? A lot, right? I don't know, Greg. We just did one. How was it?
Incredible.
Right.
You know, and the thing about
it.
no, I mean, we got into a business with a company called Homespire, and the irony of it is, the owner of Homespire, who I've known a long time, he didn't want to anything to do with NFM. He made it very clear that, like, I'm not going there. Like, I've got several other companies that I'm talking to. I've got 3 LOIs in my hand. He had and the other thing that I'd love to hear your opinion about are like these, bigger organizations like Stratmore, who they get these guys and they feel like they own them, and to the extent where they'll tell them, don't go to that company, and little do they know that that's not a client of theirs, so they're not going to get any money if you go to a company other than the one that they're already in partnership with.
Mhm.
So there's some of that sleight of hand in there too. But my point is a couple things. I want to get back to the sleight of hand. I want you all to just put that in the compartment and remember what I just said, right? Because to me, that's a headwind for you that's constantly exists, right? Because you do what they do, right? But they're the behemoth in the room, and there are a couple of others. But to your question, Paul, we worked hard, and at the end of the day, NFM turned out to be the best place for this company, and that was despite and against all odds. I mean, talk about getting there in the bottom of the 9th with 2 outs. Like
Yeah, but
this was the end of the end of the end. It was like Phil Collins, against all odds.
there's only one winner though at the end, and you try to. Again, I always go back and talk to anyone that I know that was in the game that came up short, right? And they didn't really come up short for you can't always know why they come up short, but you mentioned Stratmore. I used to have lots of conversations with Jim Cameron at Stratmore. He's retired now, but at the end of the day, what they do from the perspective of competitive intelligence. I used to sit on the Stratmore benchmark meetings and Wholesale Access and Research. That's another benchmarking company. Dave Olson retired many years ago. Dave Olson is the guy that was, partners with my newsletter for many years. But as these things have evolved, I think that on the M&A front, it's really a relationship first. And I'm just gonna talk about, so I was a finance guy before, and I'm just going to talk about one situation real quick. And I'm sorry to monopolize. I apologize to both Sue and Noah for that. But I'll talk about Gene Lugat, big MBA guy, pretty well-known guy. I used to be his finance person, right? And I can remember meeting Gene for the first time, and he said, "Paul, if you're going to go anywhere in this business, you got to buy better shoes, buddy." Right? So there's that. And he was funny. He's still funny, And when Gene wanted to make a move, when he was at PNC, Nat City had been bought by PNC, and Gene wanted to make a move. He called me up, said, "Paul, what do you think? I got to get out of here," right? And I said, "Oh, geez, Gene, let me think about that." And he sort of already knew where he wanted to go, but I helped him. I supported his 175 people just walked from one company to the other, Prime Lending at the time, And a lot of those people are still there. Gina's still there. So you talk about staying power and turnover, right? That's true staying power, right? You look back on those things, and those are really great success stories. I go back to that story only because, that's how I got my start in recruiting. That was my first really big deal. And I haven't stopped since, but the thing here is it's all relationship. It interconnects. And Sue's got all those followers, and so does Noah. And at the end of the day, they're connecting to all those people that connect with them, right? And we say, we're working, but we're working with all of our connections. When we communicate, we're working for those people too. So yeah. I'll just end there, right? Sorry to monopolize.
Noah?
What makes a successful acquisition? Was that the question?
No, I mean, I was talking, well, there's a bunch of things that I talked about. Yeah. Like what do you see as like the common denominator between success and failure? Why do these things break down? Why are all these incredible headlines out there that get people excited, and then months later you start to see people scattering?
Yeah. Too much of a focus as far as the company that's selling, too much of a focus on how much the owner is going to get up front is really what it comes down to. Because if you find, if I'm a top producing loan officer and I find out our company's being sold and you want to offer me 15 basis points, well, I can go get 35 or 40 or 50 from the next company. And like, if I'm, my best analogy here is, it's a kid that comes home from school and there's this guy sitting on the couch and he's like, "Mom, who's this guy?" "Oh, well, that's Bill. That's your new stepdad." Well, hey, if I'm gonna be, just have to meet this new stepdad, I may as well go out and pick one. So go out and get yours is kind of the mentality that's there. So the ones that I feel that are successful is when they're allocating the lion's share to making sure they retain that top talent and making sure that they are absolutely taken care of, because those are the people, the top loan officers, top branches in that company. When they make the move, they're the ones that all your mid-level and lower tier loan officers are going to be calling up going, "Hey man, are you dealing with this?" "No, man, everything's working great for me right now. Like I got a lot of support. Let me show you." So if you can create evangelists out of the top producers, then you don't have to the company doesn't have to go shoulder all that themselves. And I'm seeing more and more these acquisition deals aren't so front loaded, they're rear loaded, where it's like, "Hey, yeah, yes, you will get paid, but it's going to be further back in the back, because we're not going to put 70% of it in the owner's pocket up front and hope that everything works out, because it won't work that way."
Yeah. Do you guys work with brokers at all?
Mm-hmm.
You place people in mortgage broker land?
Mm-hmm. I do. At San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I'm from and live, we have some great brokers out here. I was a broker, independent broker, supporting a large boutique real estate firm for many years. And we love our brokers. And
so I must say that there's an echo in your room, and that just tells me that you must have very high ceilings. So I think you're living pretty large. You're doing okay. You're doing okay, Sue.
Is there really an echo?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you can tell that's that you got a nice ceiling over your head there.
Well, I have high ceilings.
So how much longer are you going to keep doing this?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Should I give it up?
No, you're great. No, I listen, I look forward to my conversations with you.
Yeah.
So I want to prepare myself if
I'll tell you what. I have an 11-year-old granddaughter, Reagan Sue, and when she spends the night all the time, she went home, drove her home one night, and her parents, my son, his wife, and the other kids were there. And she goes, "Did you know Gigi has a job?" And they go, "No, does she?" She goes, "Yeah." And it's our name. And my son's like, "Really?" And she's like, "Yeah." She goes, "She's like the president, and I'm going to take over her company." And she was like 9 when she said this. So I'm grooming her. And if anybody on my Facebook will see, she's the fly girl in the stunt competition for cheerleaders, the tall, skinny kid that they throw up in the air, and she does that's going to take over. She's going to take over my company, but she was shocked that I worked.
Oh my goodness. All right. So look, before we go,
who retires from what they love?
Oh
True.
my gosh.
True. So we got a bunch of people that have commented here. When the show's over, I want you to jump into the comments. Desiree wants to know mistakes you've made along the way. Catherine Molden, how are you leveraging AI? Tony Keiko, who's
What's up, Tony?
Tony's he's elite as well in this. Sorry, Tony, I could only have so many of you on here. Which part of the recruiting process do you find to be the most difficult, and where do you feel most recruiters fail? I mean, these are some incredible questions. Somehow we're 51 minutes into this. Each of you can grab the question that stands out the most and answer it. Then we'll wrap it up.
I think the hardest part about recruiting is getting paid. Hands down. And it's so stupid to have this discussion out loud, but hopefully there are CFOs and presidents and sales leaders and people that I work with, and they all do it. But trying to get paid and really appreciate it. It's been, my appreciation when I place somebody, the candidate will call and say, "Oh my God, thank you, thank you. This is the best place I've ever worked. Thank you for helping me." They'll thank me till the cows come home. But I don't get a lot of calls from leaders saying, "Wow, Rainwater, that was great. Thank you so much." So when I do get it, when I do receive a thank you or an atta girl, it goes a long way and it makes me work harder the next time. And you, Greg Shearer, give a lot of atta girls and atta boys. And a wise guy that I worked for, Chris George, said, "Exit as you enter." When you come on board with a new company, you get a lot of, "We're glad you're here. Everybody's treating them right." And when he fires you, he kind of treats you the same way. Well, come on back if you ever want to. But really, when I place people and they are embraced by the companies that I place them with continuously, that speaks volumes for the company and goes a long way. I think everyone would agree. Take care.
Noah, you want to jump in?
Yeah. Most challenging thing is staying on the narrow path. It's really easy to go talk crap about companies. It's really easy to sidestep questions, be deceptive about it. It takes, for me, it's this daily battle of, I have to choose to try to take the narrow path and to stay honest and in my lane about something. For instance, I was talking to a group last week that we're going to be, they'll be starting in January. When we were having our discovery call, he said, "Oh yeah, I'm talking with this and this bank." And I'm like, "Oh, that's my client." And I completely missed the ball and didn't even mention them to you, even though it makes perfect sense that like, I think it'd be a good match. And so instead, I'm not going to disparage my client. And I said, "Look, they are really good. Like, you should talk to this guy and this guy and this person. They'll give you the straight story about it. It's a really good company." And I think that the natural inclination for us to try to get to our goal faster is to take that path of least resistance. But oftentimes that can come back to bite you. And so maintaining that high degree of integrity, because unfortunately, recruiters, we're not restaurantized. Like, if you go to McDonald's and you have a crappy hamburger, you're like, "That's it. Never going for a hamburger again." No, you're going to go to the next restaurant and try a hamburger. But recruiters, we get lumped into this category because there are a lot of bad actors in this space. A lot of people that just spread rumors or throw stuff against the wall or disparage people or lie. And it's very challenging you have to keep that integrity first, because you can build that over years and years and years. And all it takes is one little slip up, and then all of a sudden it slashes what you've done. So I think maintaining that high degree of integrity, being honest with people, even if it's not to your benefit, is really the biggest challenge, and it's also the biggest opportunity.
Paul, you're not a bad hamburger, just so you know. You're more like a 4-pound lobster shelled.
Oh, okay.
You get to bring up the caboose here, then we're going to wrap it up.
Your compliments are ever inspiring, Greg. So I think the challenge for me is navigating the disappointment, because disappointment is it's an emotional response. People are devastated, and I've seen in the last 3 years, a cycle where people are losing their jobs and they're out there for a long time and they can't find their way back, and the industries have been a little unforgiving in giving them a chance and that kind of thing. And I think talking to those kinds of people and helping them through that situation is my toughest challenge, because I do take those calls and I do listen and I do try to help them.
Yeah, that's great. I have to say, I mean this, I can't say this any more sincerely, that the three of you have enriched my 2025, and I don't mean financially, although you have. You do produce, but you, more than anything, you produce integrity. All three of you. So I can't pay you a higher compliment than that, and I mean that sincerely to all three of you. You're incredible to work with, and our pipeline is what it is because of the three of you. So, thank you very much. This has been great. This has been so interesting, and we'll have to do it again sometime down the road.
You're the best.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, Greg.
Next Monday, a farewell to Marcia Davies, COO of the Mortgage Bankers Association and founder of Empower. We're going to find out what hands she's leaving it in and where to from here for Marcia Davies, who's poured into this business and given so much to so many. Until then, have a great week, everybody. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
So long.
See ya.